Kenall has some technology called Indigo Clean that they put in a bunch of their fixtures. And basically what it does is that it disinfects, it kills bacteria, specifically MRSA and C. diff, which are very big problems at hospitals, as many of you know. And he's going to talk about what the technology does and how we know it works and all that good stuff. So go ahead, Tony.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you guys. Really appreciate this. I'm proud to be part of the first virtual happy hour that you guys have had. So we're making history today. So yeah, thanks a lot. It's an interesting time. We all know. I mean, you know, and my 57 years and you know, and in the last, I think over 100 years, nothing like this has really happened to our country. So right now we are getting a lot of phone calls, a lot of inquiries about Indigo Clean, as you mentioned, Angela, and we're inundated with these calls, and we want to talk about the benefits of it, and we want to talk about how it differs from UV product. So I'm going to talk about a lot of that as well.
Yeah,
so,
this is not a UV product. That's what we want.
Yes, absolutely. It's not a UV. UV's got some benefits, but it has a lot of detriment. So we want to make sure we hit both those points today too.
Okay.
So yeah, so you know, I'm kind of glad that it was a happy hour and I brought my drink, and I want to start by saying I would look for some photos of my wife and I realized that, you know, I found a lot of photos of us drinking at bars and baseball games and tiki huts in Chicago winery, and I realized I think I might have a problem. I'll deal with that after this.
Now's not the time to worry about your liver.
No, I know. I heard alcohol sales have gone up 500% during this time.
I believe it.
That and Perel and toilet paper, right? So, Kenall, as you guys are familiar with, and some people aren't, company was based in Illinois for years. Now it's in Wisconsin. Oh, and there's somebody. Hey. And Kenall specializes in a lot of different core markets, primarily healthcare, and that's kind of where we're at now. But we do correctional in different areas. I don't want to talk too much about that unless we want to take that offline later on, because we're here to talk about healthcare stuff. So, been around for a long time, 63, same year I was born. So Kenall's 57 years old. We do all the testing and all the lab work and all the photometric stuff is all internal. We have state-of-the-art testing facility that we can freeze, basically we can take a turkey and put it in this one box that we've got, cook the turkey and then freeze it. So we torture fixtures, we make sure that they're all up to par, and everything that we do is based around certified performance. And not only do we test the product, we send it out independently to test it. So we make sure that we adhere to these standards. And the reason we do that is because we don't want to say, oh yeah, our fixture doesn't leak, or our fixture, is lightning proof and it's an outdoor product, or it's ISO for a clean room. We want to make sure that it is tested and we have all that criteria. So if you ever specify a fixture, I suggest that you ask the manufacturer to get that documentation, because a good manufacturer is going to be able to provide that. So when you have your submittals, you really want to have that stuff in. There's a lot of different tests. The leakage test is a big one. It used to be PSI, pounds per square inch. They squirt a hose on it. But now everything's through the IP, ingress protection. And that's pretty much where I think a lot of outdoor fixtures started. Kenall was the first to bring the IP testing into a healthcare market. And that's kind of what we do. So a couple different ones. There's a solid one for particulates, and there's one for water, for liquid. The first number in the IP is for particulates or solids. It goes anywhere from 0, unprotected, all the way down to 6, which is dust tight. And what dust tight means is that particles of 1 micron or larger cannot get into that space. I didn't know what a micron was, so I Googled it. So in case somebody had asked me, and what a micron is, it's 1/1,000,000th of an inch. Of a meter. So you get a meter stick. So basically, it's talcum powder. So this is basically the test, the particulate test. Dust is circulated through this room and the fixtures inside this little chamber, and then the fixture's taken out later. And you've heard of the white glove test, where you wipe it and see if you have any dirt on your hand. We actually use black cloth, and we wipe the entire product inside and out. And if any dust got into the fixture, it doesn't pass. That's kind of how it's done. There's also a water test that we do where we put water on the product, and depending on how much water is put on the product, determines whether it's the 5, 6, or 7, the second number. And the reason we do that, and now I'm going to test my age here. We want to make sure that dust, dirt, or junior mints don't fall from the plenum space into a body cavity. So an old Seinfeld thing. It used to get a lot of laughs, but a lot of younger people don't know this anymore. So.
Who's Seinfeld?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know how old you are. You told me when your birthday was, April. One other listings too is the NSF listings. We want to make sure it's easy to clean, non-toxic, and doesn't corrode. And lastly, I want to talk about this because this is kind of a new listing. And if you guys aren't familiar with it, we probably should be, because we've created this fixture now. Essentially, we have a rock. We have a fixture that no dust is going to get inside and nothing's going to get outside. The one thing though, however, is we're going to make sure that nothing leaks around the fixture. So prior to probably 2 years ago, there was really no test. So Kenall developed its own test, and then we went to NSF, and the NSF said, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Let's create this test, because they had something for biosafety cabinets. So you go to the CDC in Atlanta, and they had these big cabinets there, and they had like Ebola and SARS and now COVID-19 inside these rooms. And the last thing they wanted was any of this virus to leave those spaces and go into adjacent areas, either through the plenum or through a wall. So these biosafety cabinets had a seal around these things. And there was really no test for light fixtures. So the NSF created one now, specifically for light fixtures, and it's called the P442 NSF test. And basically, it's a box that's created, the fixtures put inside the box, and pressure is applied into the box when the fixture is installed inside. 2 pounds of pressure for 30 minutes or more. It has to hold that pressure. If it loses anything, plus or minus 10%, it fails. So this is really important, because you want to make sure you've put all this time and effort into making this fixture that's solid. The last thing you want is a fixture now that's gonna not hold its seal, and stuff's gonna leak from the operating room space into the plenum or vice versa. So that's the new test. So it's interesting. You guys should look into it. We have information on it, and we could provide that information to you guys.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Actually, a funny story, we used to have our own spec on it called the K230. K stood for Kenall. 230 is 2 pounds of pressure for 30 minutes. And we put that on some of the specs. Some people who valued it would actually write it into the submittals. And some competitors said, yeah, we're K230 compliant as well. It can't be, it's our spec. So, but now there's one that's by an independent lab, which makes it even more credible than before.
Right.
Something just to let you know, if you're interested in any of the products that we talk about today, we have a new product selector guide that's available online and paperback if you want it. Talks about all the light fixtures inside the facility and best practices and how to, let's say you want to look at an operating room, you want to figure out how to lay it out. Particularly when we talk about indigo, each indigo fixture, and when you put a system together, we want to make sure that we dose that space properly, meaning we put enough light fixtures in that space to properly kill 75 to 80% of that bacteria.
Right.
So this is one of my favorite brochures that came out, and it kind of gets right into the meat of what we want to talk about today. Ever since we've gone from fluorescent, where you have full spectrum light, it shoots out all different nanometer lights, and gone to LED, we can hone in on specific nanometer light, and which makes things interesting, because now you have your your indigo color that you see, that purple color, you have green, you have ambers, you have reds. Greens, this is one of my favorite ones I first started working on. We have green LEDs that's 530 nanometer. And this is a hospital room that I helped work with in Chicago. This was Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Some of you guys may have heard of that place. It's pretty big. And we had product in there that had both white light and green LEDs. So the fixtures that you see in the corners of this photo are actually 2x2 green, dedicated green. So this is when it was lit up white. When you turn the white off and turn the green on, this is what happened. It lit up the whole space green. And now we have specific nanometer green lights in that space.
And this helps the surgeon see? Is that?
It does. It does. So I was going to show you right now. So this is what the room looks like. I got distracted a little bit when I saw April walk away and disappear into the beach.
Walking on water.
Is that right?
It's really hot. I had to go cool off.
look at dip in the ocean. But so yeah, so this is the space with the white light on and the green off, and you see the reflective glare from the booms and from the actual light fixtures in the ceiling. So that I took that, Angela, with my camera. I had my camera. I took that photograph. I mean, actually, you can actually see Cliff Yankee. You see Denise, and you see Heather, and I'm over there on the right side, far on the right. Took this product. So this photo, and when we took the photo with the green lights and shut the lights off, this is what it looked like. Now you can make out what was on there, and I have a side by side to show you. I mean, no trick photography, no touching up. That's exactly what it looked like. So if you're doing a minimal invasive surgery where you have an arthroscopic tube or something, and you're trying to see that monitor, the last thing you want to do is get this reflective glare. So in the past, they would shut these lights off completely, these surgeons. So they'd have to, sometimes they'd even install a foot pedal, and they'd be turning them on and off, on and off. Back in the fluorescent day, they do that. Those ballasts were burning out very quickly, very, very fast. So when they went to LED, it was still a hassle, and you couldn't really see and do ancillary tasks when the lights were off. But you couldn't see the monitor either when they were on. So this was a great compromise. And
there's another reason for the green.
And I want to hear it. I think I know what it is, but tell me.
You could actually see bleeders a lot easier. The green, it makes it easier for the surgeons to see any peripheral cuts that they may have missed.
Yep. That's absolutely right. Actually, one of the other things they'll do too, they'll use it in not in cath labs, but when they want to do vein harvesting for surgeons, because when you look at flesh, and it's kind of graphic, but if you look at the veins, they appear black versus where you wouldn't be able to see them with light shining onto tissue. So they're used for that as well, to extract the veins for bypass surgeries.
Cool.
So you know what, and I'm going to bring us to Indigo, but I want to talk about this because I never knew about this.
Any other questions on any of that? And
yep.
By the way, Virgil, you're late. You were supposed to drop my Uber Eats off 20 minutes ago.
So
any other questions from anybody on that? All right, guess not. Go for it, Tony. Now we get into the good stuff.
So this was kind of neat because I never knew about this prior to Kenall developing this product. At 570 nanometer, it appears amber. If you look at that color, it's like an orangish color. And what happens, apparently, they'll use this in pharmaceutical companies and microchip processing companies because the white light might degrade the material or the product, especially in pharmaceutical. And that's why our pill bottles are all amber color. And I never knew that. I thought it was kind of cool. So we make that for a lot of clean room fixtures and different areas in hospitals that have to deal with pharmaceutical stuff. Red is vivarium stuff, so you'd see that. You would most likely see vivarium stuff for animal studies labs. Nocturnal animals will see red, and they really can't see it, so to them it appears like it's night. However, the lab technicians can actually study the animals, administer tests, do whatever they have to do while the animals are still active. If they had the white light on and you have a nocturnal animal, they'd be sleeping. So that's the reason for that. That brings us to 405 nanometer indigo. So 405 nanometer indigo is a fascinating subject, fascinating topic, and we're going to dive into it right now. So I'm sure some of you have heard of Indigo Clean and what it does. It was originally called HINS, but Indigo Clean is really visible light disinfection. And we have two modes. We have a white mode that has white and indigo LED mixed in together. So when you see that space, it'll look like just a typical white room. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Safe to be inside that space. You can walk around all day. You don't have to worry about it hurting you. It's not ultraviolet. It's 405 nanometer visible light. So when you're in that space, that's what it looks like. As soon as you leave that space, you can either flip a switch, or recommended, sold with the system, you have a vacancy sensor that'll detect no movement. after whatever predetermined time you decide, whether it's like a 3 minute, I think up to 33 minutes you can go, where it'll detect no movement, and then it turns into the full indigo mode. Now in the full indigo mode, it's 3 times the bacterial killing power that it was before. However, it's still safe to be under in that space. The only thing is you'll look like a Smurf.
Visible light.
Yeah, right. It's not good light to work under. I have a photograph. I should have included it in the presentation somewhere of me inside the space. I look like a giant Smurf. But you can imagine that if you're in that space, it's going to be just difficult to work. But again, we have.
That's the point, though. The point is that it's doing the triple the disinfecting.
It is. It kills about 3 times the amount it does in the mixed mode, or the white disinfection mode is what we call it. So it does a good job in either case. However, you're just killing more bacteria. So essentially, if with a 24-hour period, if we can get 12 hours in that white disinfection, that mixed mode, and then 12 hours in that blue mode, our claim is that we're going to kill 70% of the bacteria inside that space. Every clinical study we've done and that we have out there, all these case studies, everything's been above that. It's been more like 80, 85%. So I mean, sorry, I just hit that, didn't I? So yeah, I mean, it varies. It depends on how often they'll use it. I mean, some ORs are scheduled to only operate maybe 10 hours a day, where some will be scheduled to operate 16 hours a day. Maybe an ER room where it almost has no downtime. You're going to get less kill unless you put more product inside. And we dose those spaces, and we give those recommendations, and we could help design those spaces when you have an application that we have to look at.
Okay, good.
So this is so of the dual mode, and that's what that is, because we have a couple different products we'll talk about. The dual mode has, again, 2 modes, dual mode, right? So you have that white disinfection mode, and you have full indigo. These are really the 3 products that we have that do the dual mode: an operating fixture, a patient room product, and then another downlight that can be used either patient room or for surgical room areas. So I think I mentioned yesterday when we talked a little bit before this, I said there's really about five or six questions come up when I talk about Indigo Clean. People ask, what is it? Why would you use it? How does it work? And then, people are skeptical. Does it really work? Is it safe to be around? And what does it cost? And I'll try to address all those things. So I kind of told you what it is. Let me tell you why you should use it if we don't know already with everything that's going on. These are some.
Well, I mean, the first question I think people are going to have, we talked about this, is does it kill COVID-19 or the virus that causes COVID-19?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's great. Let's address it now. The elephant's in the room, so let's talk about it. It's so I mean, it does not kill virus. Right. Indigo Clean does not kill virus. Indigo Clean does, however, kill bacteria that is associated with a lot of the deaths that are happening right now, quite frankly.
The secondary infections that people are getting in the hospitals, right?
What's the number one infection people are getting in the hospital? Do you know right now? The ones that are killing the people? I mean, you know what? I mean, it's respiratory.
Pneumonia.
Yeah, it's ventilator associated pneumonia is the big one right now. That's it's a bacterial infection. It's a respiratory infection, and what's happening is the virus is, and I'm not a doctor. The virus is attaching internally, and it depends on your DNA. It affects different people differently, not just age, but your actual DNA. And they're finding more and more about that. I just read recently. However, a lot of the bacteria your immune system goes down. A lot of this bacteria and that is now infecting these people's lungs, and it's closing off the blood supply essentially when they try to breathe, the oxygen supply to their organs, and they're having massive organ failure, and it's a horrible way to die. Quite frankly, it's sad. Hopefully, if the bacteria burden is lessened in these spaces, it can only help. It can only help. But
absolutely. I mean, like you said, a lot of these people are actually dying of the bacterial infection that they're getting from being intubated.
That's true, and I don't want to misrepresent the product in any way. Getting this will not kill the virus. And I'm not saying that if they have the Indigo Clean inside that space, it's definitely going to save someone from getting the bacterial infection. However, a cleaner space is going to lead to less surgical site infections, less infections, regardless. I mean, it's
We're
common
talking about
sense.
mitigating risk here.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, cleaner's better. I mean, I've been to a couple different presentations with Cliff Yankee and different people. We had chief surgeons there, epidemiologists, head of infection prevention people, and where they're debating amongst each other in the rooms. And I remember one surgeon said, "Where would you rather have your wife and children operated on, in a room that had this product in and was cleaner, or a dirtier room?" And it's common sense, right? But we'll talk more about that, and we can talk about the cost associated with the product versus what it costs for one surgical site infection and how much it costs the hospital. Because these bullet points that you see right here, the first three hit home personal level. Right now it's hard for me to have this conversation with, I don't know who's all in the room, but if 1 in 20 people that goes inside a hospital gets an HAI, that's 5%. And I usually ask the question, I go, how many people, know someone who has had a surgical site infection? And invariably, I'm in a room of 10, 12 people. There's always someone raises their hand. And
Yeah.
my mother passed away from one. So I take it very personally. And 1.7 million people a year get a hospital-acquired infection. That's a lot of people in our country. And, right now, I think we're up at like 25,000 people died from this COVID. This in flu season. Look at 100,000 people every year die from an HAI. So it's a big problem, and it's being addressed, on a decent basis now. But I think there's more concerted effort and there's more attention to it now than ever because of what's going on with COVID.
Yeah.
So if those first three bullet points don't hit you, and you're talking to someone at a hospital, look at the next two. A typical accepted cost of a HAI is $23,000. Now, I was at that same discussion I had with the chief surgeon. He goes, "Really?" Because ours are like 65,000 to 80,000, and if there's litigation based around it, you're looking at $1.5 million. It could be astronomical, and the cost for that's being withheld from Medicare and Medicaid, because they don't pay for that. If you go into a hospital and you have an appendicitis that your appendix has to get removed, or gallbladder, or a knee replacement surgery, and then all of a sudden you get MRSA. Someone mentioned MRSA. You get C. diff. You get a coli. You get any other thing. The hospitals say, no, they got that at your place. That's on you. That's on your dime. It wasn't always that way. They changed that, I think, about 10, 12 years ago. So hospitals are very cognizant of that. Risk assessment managers, the CEOs, the C-suite people, they all know what it costs and how they're all vehemently trying to defend getting those things inside their hospital.
I think I remember Rich, your boss, was talking about how it helps to discuss this, especially when contractors trying to get the budget down, and this is one of the ways that he says to do it. The second there's a lawyer for the hospital in the room, the conversation's over because of how much they're saving on not getting sued for these infections. And the hospital itself knows how, everybody that deals with this knows how much it costs them, or at least understands that it costs them quite a bit. So it's important to have the client understand what this is doing for them in terms of cost, not on the back end, not just that, hey, this fixture is a little bit more expensive right now. Yeah.
Yep, that's absolutely true. We have I think somewhere in this presentation, I have a little, everyone likes the ROI chart. So I have a return on investment chart, and just gives you an example, and it's based on a case study that we did. So they're real numbers, so we can look at those. I know we're drinking, and we don't look at this too long, but hospital-acquired infections are all different kinds. I'll just go to this because it's a little bit easier to look at. That's the same thing you just saw, but those are all just different kinds of. I don't know if you can see my arrow when I do this.
Yes.
Okay, so this is central line associated bloodstream infection. So that's basically if you have a indwelling catheter, right? SSI, surgical site infection. So this is, someone mentioned MRSA before. This is the methicillin resistant staph right here. That's the big one. But look what's very close to it. Ventilator associated pneumonia, and that's what we're dealing with a lot right now with the COVID. CDI is Clostridium difficile, which is C. diff, and then This is catheter-associated urinary tract. Our product is effective against MRSA mostly, and this are huge MRSA. Central line associated bloodstream infections are also MRSA. When you have a catheter in your arm and you have a bacteria colony forms on there, it could back into your blood supply, and it has before. So that's kind of where we play with the indigo. Oops, sorry. Here's some of the true costs for hospitals. I'm going to kind of go through some. Oh shoot, I'm going to go through some of this pretty quick here. So I apologize in advance. This is from the CDC. I'll cover it up real quick again. But diseases spread really quick. There's a lot of different bacteria that sits in an environment for a long time. You have C. diff, you have methicillin-resistant staph, which is MRSA. And look at norovirus. That's kind of what we're dealing with now. I mean, with the COVID, that's a norovirus. So a lot of stuff lasts a long time in the environment, and it's good to have product that continually cleans the environment. This is a slide of a couple petri dishes. The first one was a gloved hand worker touched a patient that had methicillin-resistant staph, MRSA. Touched the patient, then touched the petri dish. 72-hour culture later, that's all the MRSA that was on the patient. Patient was dismissed, cleaned that space. Gloved hand worker came in, touched multiple places, touched the petri dish. After the space was cleaned, MRSA was still in that space. So even under the best cleaning circumstances, if you think, that bacteria stays in that space quite a long time. This is C. diff. If the patient who was in the room prior to you coming in had C. diff, you had a 265% chance more likely that you would get C. diff. Some local hospital, I live in Northwest Indiana, some local hospitals here had a big problem with C. diff just recently. So it's a big thing. If you work in a patient room area, you're more concerned about C. diff. If you work inside the operating room, you're more concerned about MRSA.
Interesting.
So how does Indigo Clean work? So we talked a little bit about what it is and why you'd use it, but let me show you exactly how it works. So if you look at a rainbow, the spectrum of a rainbow, this is all visible light. Everything to the left of that purple is going to be ultraviolet. Everything to the right is infrared. This area is just considered visible light spectrum that you go outside. Where Indigo Clean plays is 405 nanometers. So it's on the cusp, but it's still visible light. The way it works, it just simply passes through the atmosphere, through the air, wherever it lights, and hits bacterial cells. It penetrates the cell wall, and it shakes up a little particle inside that bacterial cell called the porphyrin particle. Every bacteria has it. Good bacteria, and I've heard people talk about, does it kill good bacteria? Yeah, it kills good bacteria, it kills bad bacteria. It doesn't discriminate, it kills it all. Because they have the little porphyrin particle, breaks it up, and it calls it a reactive oxygen species, what it does. So basically it breaks down the DNA from the inside out. It's the same process essentially as if you poured bleach on it. However, bleach works from the outside of the wall and breaks it down that way. So unless you're a scientist, a lot of that stuff I'm not familiar with all the reactive oxygen species formulas, but that's how that was explained to me. And we have all that data available if you want to read all that. It's all available online to get into the weeds. The nice thing about reflective light, the visible light, it is reflective, and not only will it kill pathogens that are floating through the air, that come through the air handler, through people breathe things out. Where's most of the bacteria come from? Does anyone know where it comes from? Angela, come on.
No.
It comes from the people that walk into space. If no one comes in that space, because you walk in, it comes off the skin, it comes off your hair. That's why these surgeons are cleaning their arms and cleaning, scrubbing forever.
Right.
And you talk about good and bad bacteria, they're killing that good bacteria with all the cloth and the chemicals that they put on their hands. The good bacteria that people are concerned about are the bacteria that are inside your body. This product will never penetrate your skin and get into your body and kill the good bacteria inside your body. But again, it's reflective, so it bounces around and it gets areas underneath tables, gets stuff in airs, gets a variety of different surfaces, kills bacteria all over. Let's talk about the safety issue, because that was one of my concerns when I first heard about it. I said, it kills bacteria, is it bad for me? And we looked at that a little bit. And again, we'll talk about, 405 nanometer where it sits. Everything to the left is UV. We see where it says UVC right here. UVC is very very small bandwidth waves, very tight short waves, and that is the stuff that they'll use inside those UV robots that you've seen. They'll bring inside the space. They'll light the space up. They'll kill a lot of bacteria with those things. Bacteria and virus, and then take that out of the space. UVA and B are right here, and UVA and B is the stuff that you have to put sunscreen on when you go outside, and everything else is visible light. So if you looked at our product and you look at the irradiance level over here, and I'm sorry, right here's the irradiance level. This little blip is our maximum level of how much of 405 nanometer blue is out of the product. This aqua line you see is a typical day, and this is just different wavelengths. So at 405 nanometers and a typical daylit day, you actually have more, outside in regular spectrum light than you do inside the product. So if you're afraid to go outside, I guess you should be more afraid to go outside. There's ultraviolet out there. So it's safer to be inside a space with this product in than outside. And if you want to get really into the weeds on this, we've done a lot of different tests, photobiological lamp safety tests by the IEC, a lot of different ocular hazard stuff to make sure it doesn't hurt your eyes. And everything that we've done, it's passed. All that information is available online on both the Kenall website and the Indigo Clean website if you want to get into it and look more about how it works and what the tests were. So, go ahead.
No, that's.
So does Indigo Clean work? I want to talk about this. So here's some of the stuff.
Questions from anybody yet? Everybody's been real quiet. No sleeping.
They're drinking. That's one.
Yeah.
Give you a chance to drink. Ask some questions.
Here, I'll have a sec.
So here's some of the bacteria that it kills. Those escape pathogens on the left side of the screen, those are the ones that are most susceptible to cause surgical site infections inside hospitals. However, it's effective against everything to the right. You see C. diff at the bottom. Aspergillus, which is big. Look at E. coli, Salmonella. It kills a lot, right? But really, this one, staph, someone mentioned MRSA before. That's the big one. That's the one that kills most of the people from SSIs. C. diff is pretty big as well. This was Glasgow, Scotland. This is the University of Strathclyde, Glasgow, Scotland. It's an infirmary they had, a burn unit. They had 55 colony forming units before they had the lights on. They turned the indigo lights on, left them on for 2 days, and they brought the colony forming units down to 13 per million, which is significant. It was I think 76% reduction. And then you see when they turned the lights back off, took them out, it spiked again. And all these different surfaces in that space all reacted in the same way. They all had a negative decrease in bacteria levels. So this was Freighter Hospital, where we did it.
One before was the list that we saw. That's what that was, right?
Yes. This.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're all, yeah. We get different, like the workstation bins.
Oh, different places. Okay, surface specific.
Yeah, all different surfaces. I'm sorry if I didn't explain it right. Yeah, like the apron holder, everything, all had a reduction in bacteria. So this was Freighter Hospital in Wisconsin, where we actually had one of our first studies, where we put the light inside a waiting room. Actually,
that's where your factory is, right? It's near there.
Yeah, we're pretty close. This is like Milwaukee, so we're about 35, 40 minutes south of that space. So yeah, we did the first clinical installation there next to all these waiting rooms, and we reduced bacteria by 70% in that space. I'm going to kind of get through here because I'm looking at time. I want to make sure I get some of the product and show that. But we've had this with Kenall since 2014. 2016 is when we actually started getting clinical studies and getting some results. This is Infection Disease Week. This is some papers, some posters were printed by some foremost people that are in infection prevention, including Bill Rotala, who's like the guru of infection prevention. And We had some installations in Henderson Hospital, which is just outside of Las Vegas, which is infamous for probably having more of the people from Mandalay Bay shooting go to that facility than any other place. They had 0 surgical site infections within the first year, 0. The national average is 2 to 5%. They had over 1,000 cases. They should have 20 to 50 for sure, but it was significant reduction. This is
Do
just
you
some.
hear from the doctors, from the surgeons? I mean, when you hear something like that, 0 cases where they should have had 20 to 50.
Mhm.
Have you guys heard from the hospital? Like, what do they? I mean, aside from the obvious, on paper, these are the numbers. We're very happy. Like,
Yeah.
do you ever hear anything, testimonials or anything like that? I mean,
Yeah, I just passed them up here. I was going through them real fast, but I mean, there were. I mean, they talked about how even the light fixtures are in on the killing of the bacteria, but we have, and I was just going to point to some of these case studies, Angela. So I mean, a lot of that information's on these things, so you segued perfectly for me. So this stuff's all online right now. You guys could take a look at this stuff, but we have a lot of different case studies ongoing now because when we first started, our focus was on lowering bacterial levels. See, bacterial level 82%, 88% at Maury. We lowered the bacterial levels by 70 was the claim, but we were pegging 80, 85. So Henderson Hospital, the one that you just you mentioned, the testimonials, they liked it so much they put it in another hospital because they realized it was effective. And Maury is the one I think I'm going to talk about next, I believe. And Maury was in Columbia, Tennessee. Here's Maury, Columbia, Tennessee. So Linnell Morrell, who's the head of infection prevention nursing, said, I want to put it in my space because we have an infection prevention problem. And we've done everything we can. And she said, my house was in order. I had everything done. And the only thing she did was put these light fixtures in that space. This is a photograph I took with my cell phone so I could prove I was there. Really great quality, as you can see. But so we put it in one operating room. Then we had a control room and we had 2 other operating rooms on that same floor. So when I went there, I saw these spaces, which were pretty interesting.
what do you mean by control room? You mean no lights in there?
Yep. So that's it right there, Angela. So OR room number 1 is the control room. There's no indigo lights up in the ceiling. We got a little layout here. OR room 2 and show some indigo lights up in the ceiling here. That's the test room. And then there was another room.
You guys did the I forget what you called it, but where you decide how many of them you actually need in the space to disinfect properly, right?
Yeah, we recommend always to dose the space properly because the last thing you want to do is to provide you product and then you go, what, that didn't really work. I mean,
right, because it wasn't laid out properly.
Right. I mean, could you put one fixture in that space and change the bacteria burden and level? Yeah, sure you could. However, it might almost be negligible. You almost have to light that space, and I'll kind of go through that a little bit. Like you're going to just light the OR. They had it where they had alternating light fixtures, and we just changed the intensity of these fixtures. However, and I had a picture in here earlier today. I took it out because I didn't like the way it looked. Because you can see the difference between the 4,700 Kelvin surgical fixtures we had and the 3,800 or 3,500 that they had, and it just didn't look good. It looked like you just had a white, white, warm, white, warm, white, warm. As lighting people, we see that and we go, oh my God, but I've seen people walk through an office space and they look up in the ceiling and there's fluorescent tubes and there's 3 different fluorescent tube colors in the same fixture, but so anyway, we kind of controlled that and we made sure that we had enough to dose that space properly. So again, 3 spaces, indigo, no indigo, no indigo. These 2 rooms though, they shared cases. People went back and forth between these and they had the same air handling system, these 2. This one had a different air handling system. The reason I mentioned that, the results were interesting. So OR room was just a control room with no indigo clean. That's how many cases they had from October 2015, October 2016. This is how many surgical site infections they had. The previous year, next year, with the indigo clean, they went down. They went down 75%. And so did the room 11 versus only 3 in the room with the Indigo Clean. So we said, why? And we were a little bit confused at first. We didn't know why they both went down until we realized they had the same air handling system and they shared cases back and forth. So essentially it was a cross contamination in a good way, where it actually cleaned both spaces, which was phenomenal. Because the distant OR that had neither air handling system shared, and had actually about the same amount of cases or a little bit less than the Indigo Clean, had an increase. So it was pretty interesting stuff, and this kind of shows it better, so you can see it. These both had bacterial level both lowered in these spaces, and the surgical site infections went down. Drastic reduction in surgical site infections. This one actually went up a little bit. So, and then again, Linnell will tell you, and anytime anybody wants to go visit these sites, she loves to have people come through and visit. The results were so cool that we published American Journal of Infection Control. We published this, and it's a peer reviewed paper, and it's met some really interesting comments, and a lot of different doctors have been reading this and talking about this. So it's gaining a lot of groundswell. Just some different areas that we've done some work. Again, case studies are all available online if you guys want to see them. They're there to see. I don't know if you can see this. It looks like some of this is cut off. I'm not sure because of the pictures for me, but these are some of the different locations we've done installations, where they're at, and the results of the bacterial levels that were reduced. A couple are still ongoing, these sites. I think I talked about these fixtures before. Let me just talk real quick about some of the new stuff that we're doing with ICT, which is Indigo Clean technology. Our success with this product's been so well that we've actually moved it into other products. And so you saw the dual mode product. We also have single mode product, and we could talk about some of that, but there's a lot of different applications, as you see.
The patient bathroom. So you've got it in a downlight.
Yeah, we have it in downlights. We have it in downlights that have just the single mode, and we have it in the dual mode. So we have I think I have a slide in here that talks about patient room bathrooms for C. diff. But look at locker rooms, gyms, anywhere where you think that.
You guys put it in that stadium locker room. What was it? Is that one of the pictures?
In this one, or
I don't remember. Rich was telling me about it. Reduced
MRSA.
player.
Yeah, there was a couple players. Well, we have some installations in Tennessee too, some high school locker rooms. But yeah, I mean, staph infection's a big thing. JJ Watt, anyone who knows, is a football fan and knows Houston, the Texans, JJ Watt's a defensive end there that his career almost was over because he got a bad staph infection. So a lot of NFL teams are looking at this for the locker room area as well, because if they can, think about the investment in a football player, and you look at some light fixtures, put some light fixtures in the kill MRSA, it could be pretty beneficial to them.
Yeah, especially when they're paying so much for those players.
Yeah, right. So this is the C. diff product that we put inside patient room bathrooms. So you imagine inside that space, a bathroom's not going to be occupied, maybe 22 hours, 23 hours of the day, it won't be occupied. So you'd have that really bathed in this indigo for a long time. So it's killing these endospores like C. diff, which are really hard to kill because you have this extended time of this like 3 times that power of that indigo really just blasting that area. So you can kill a lot of bacteria in those spaces as well, including E. coli and salmonella and bacteria in MRSA as well. Triage areas, just different areas. We do a lot of clean rooms, pharmaceutical areas.
Are you seeing any in assisted living or nursing homes or anything like that?
Yes, but the thing that we're running across is sometimes the cost isn't prohibitive for some of those facilities. They don't want to spend a lot of money, unfortunately, and because a lot of it could do good, inside some of those spaces. But we have the dual mode product, and we have the single mode. The single mode, we're seeing some more movement with that in the nursing homes because the cost isn't quite as bad because there's a lot less that goes into it. Where you have to, the dual mode has a lot more moving parts, and we can take that offline and talk about that a little bit if we want, or we can talk about it now. But it's
Curious.
yeah, it's a little less expensive for the single mode. Just different areas that we can light. Here's that patient and bathroom product. So yeah, this kind of describes the dual mode versus single mode, and this kind of helps clear it up a little bit. So dual mode, when you have high levels of infection, you really want to take care of, like an operating room or patient bathroom where there's a C. diff outbreak, emergency department, areas where you really want to make sure that you're killing a lot of bacteria. You'll have that opportunity. And then you're going to have, both modes, 405, and you're going to have, the white mode. The single mode is going to be where you basically, your primary concern is going to be basically finances, honestly, but anywhere you put that anywhere except the operating room, I would suggest that. Single mode's white disinfection mode only, which means you have indigo lamps or bulbs or LED in there mixed with the white, and together they'll kill a lot of bacteria in that space. Staph is really what you're kind of after with those spaces. And it's in those we don't even worry about dosing with those. We don't, we could help you with that. However, what we like to say is just light that to the level of that you want to light that space.
Right, the foot candles that you need.
Exactly. Yeah, if you want 50 FCs on the surface of the table, just light it to that space, and you'll be killing bacteria.
And our photometry department can take care of that. So
yeah, absolutely. Kenall can help as well. So, yeah, you asked the question before, how many lights are really needed? So if you run across an application, you go, well, how many do I need? There's formulas for it, but however, this is what Cliff put this together for me. You're a lighting professional, light the room according to IA standards. However, that if you want to really light that space, just call Kenall. Guys, call your reps there, and we could certainly help you get a layout, figure out what you need, and make sure that you're going to kill a lot of bacteria in that space, and hopefully save lives, because you will. And this is that ROI chart that I promised you before, and you see that 73% number. We talked about the Mori, so that's tied into that number.
So I think Gil has a question.
Okay.
Just saw that.
Can you combine the green light with the indigo clean?
That's a really great question. That just came up the other day. So I worked on a job probably about 2 years ago. It was with the VA, and now they're coming back around. They want to do that again. So because they were doing minimal invasive surgeries, and they wanted to put indigo in there. At that point, we didn't offer that, but what we did was, if you were here earlier and you saw the photos of the surgical space with the 2x2s that were green, and then the white fixtures, we had the indigo fixtures as the white fixtures, the 2x4s, and we put greens in the corners. So they were able to light that space with the green and with the indigo, but they didn't have them on at the same time. So when you're doing minimal invasive surgery, they were losing that green ability. We are talking right now about adding indigo into the green fixtures. So you'll basically have dual modes with the green as well. So if you needed to, and you want to do minimal invasive surgery and you wanted green, you can get that with the indigo. So that's happening now. So it's a real timely question.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you look at this, I'm sorry, I'm just ripping along. Any more questions on this yet, or should we wait to the end? I'm almost done, or we can take them now, whatever you want.
No, keep going. Well, I'll interrupt you again. I've got no problem interrupting.
Okay, good. I like that. So this was basically, if you look at this number, you look at 13 surgical site per previous year, and then 73% reduction. So they actually 9.5 less surgical site infections. The cost of the system in that space was $35,000. I don't know. Generally, to light an operating room, it's going to probably, to get good operating product, it's going to probably be about $10,000 to $15,000 anyway. So the additional investment might have been $20,000. So that doesn't even equate for that.
I was going to say, that's everything. So you're going to have some of that's going to be normal anyway in the course of business.
You're going to pay, if you put new lights in, you're going to pay for those. So this is just additional amount. The delta is probably like $20,000. But just if you look at the dollars, the savings from the surgical site infections for 1 year, if you reduce, was that 9.5 less surgical site infections? I didn't do the division here, but if you divide this, you'll see it's probably $20-something thousand per per infection. Look at after 10 years, because that fixture is going to last that long, and you're going to save, $2 million.
Same.
It's even if you save one.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
No,
These are numbers that are really important to have when you're having this conversation with the client. Again, like I know I just said this, but it's so important to involve them in this, because it really, this is not something that the contractor is going to understand. It's something that the client will, though. So.
Yeah. I'm almost at the end here. I just want to talk about some new product that just came out, and this is kind of in response, honestly, to the COVID thing, because we were realizing a lot of people were looking for. We call these temporary lights, and that's what we call these. If you click on this link, and I don't know if you guys are going to provide this to everybody, you certainly can. I'll send this presentation out. But if you click on this link or go on Kenall's website, you'll see these KRT products, and they're called temporary fixtures. I don't like to call them that because they have indigo inside these, and what they are portable fixtures, because you can mount these things, light up that space. After whatever temporary space you're done with, I would dispose of these, because a lot of these tents that they're putting up trouble lights and stuff that really aren't doing a lot. And they're paying anywhere between, I don't know, $150 to $250 for the product. These might cost a little bit more, but after you're done, these could go into installations all around your hospital. You don't even necessarily have to put them inside an operating room. You can put them anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they're going to last 10 years. Look at $80,000 lamp life. So.
And from an installation standpoint, how are they portable? How are they wired up?
Yeah, you know what? There's going to be a little there's a harness that's going to attach to one end, and then you'll be able to bring power into the harness and just hang it wired up. There's mounting clips that are going to be 4 mounting clips on each product on both sides. There's 8-inch wide and a 5-inch wide, and there's different lumen outputs for that. However, when you're done with that, you don't have to wire it through the wire harness. You can wire it directly through the back of the fixture by just drilling a hole into it.
All right. So they could potentially move this around if they've got an infection breaks out or something like that in the hospital. Some
people say, well, we could save these things. If you look at NEMA and you look at Army Corps of Engineers, they, this isn't their first rodeo. They deal with hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, whatever, tsunamis. They're everywhere. So they have systems in place to put light fixtures in place, but they don't have anything like this. This is indigo product that they can actually lessen bacteria loads in those spaces right away and have instant results, because the space is getting clean. It's always cleaning.
Yeah, and I suspect it's probably a little bit harder to keep a temporary space like that clean.
Yeah, it might be. It's just nice to always have something clean.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm talking over you. And then this is something a little formatting problem here. This is something that's kind of interesting too. And these we have these in stock. These are ready to ship. These are retrofit kits that you can put into existing product. So if you have I don't know, a locker room, a gym, anywhere, a waiting room, and you think, well, you know what? I think I can really think that single mode product might work. We have tubes that you can put in place and just install. I think I even have, I'm going to try clicking this and see if it works, but they're really easy to install. Let's get this. Oh, there we go. No, maybe not. Oh, can you hear that?
We can hear it, but we can't see.
Now can you see it?
No.
Oh, no? Okay.
Update your existing fluorescent lighting with LEDs using Indigo Clean technology and realize the benefit of environmental disinfectant.
That's all.
Yeah, sorry.
With the flick of your lighting switch, this simple to install has all the screws, lead wire.
I can't even mute it. I don't know what. We should work.
Oh no, we can't hear you now.
Oh no.
There. Okay, you're back.
My bad.
Does Gil have another question, or I just have to lower his hand still?
Yeah.
No, I do not have another question.
Okay, so then click the raise hand. Perfect. Yes. Done. Okay.
All right. think that was the last. That was the last slide I had. Unfortunately, sorry I couldn't get that to go on. It just shows how easy it is to install. Unfortunately, that's available online too, and hopefully we'd share this presentation with everybody.
So
Yeah, that was
go ahead. Hi, sorry. Who was talking? Did I interrupt somebody? Does anyone have any questions? We touched on the temporary ones. Are there any names that you can list where you've sent them recently? I know that there was, besides what you already talked about, maybe, I don't know.
I'm sorry. Would you
Everybody on here, I'm actually, we recorded this, so we'll be able to share this with anybody. If you need it, just reach out to your power and lighting salesperson. In case you want to share it with anybody in your company. We can also set up another personalized one with Tony if you need to, either a phone call, another little video conference, whatever works for you guys. We know you're all busy out there trying to make it through this with work in progress and keeping construction going. So we're here to help you any way we can. We want to thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. But seriously, if anybody has any questions, please let us know.
Yeah, you know what? We have over 500,000 hours, or probably over 1 million hours of successful installations across the United States. I have that reference list, Angela. I don't know. I had it on here and somehow it dropped off my my presentation. So I'll make sure when I send it to you guys, you'll have that on there as well.
Yeah.
Do we have any hospitals that use that technology close by?
I don't. You know what? I got to check with Rich. I think you guys might know more than me because I'm kind of new jumping into this market. So probably.
We had a sample that was supposed to happen in Baptist. I don't think it happened yet. But I'll check with John Cap too, because I know he was working on something with one of the hospitals up in Broward to see about that. Hey, Felix, we see that you have a question. What can we do for you?
Still muted. Yeah. What? There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Oh, like quick question regarding this feature. Is possible to install the Indigo inside the ductwork on the supply side of the air conditioning system?
In the air conditioning system, you know, generally we'll see that installed inside like a UV ultraviolet light being put into those spaces. We don't really have any installations into those. However, I mean, if you could fit those tubes inside some ductwork, I'm sure you could. We don't have a product for that. However, we stay away from UV product just for liability reasons. Because there are some companies out there that are putting UV in their products. However, if you read some of the American Journal of Infection Control, they'll say, well, we recommend that you're not exposed to it for over 8 hours because it's a known carcinogen. You know, and so we stay away from that. We don't play in that market because of liability reasons. However, you could probably put it in ductwork if you had the right application. We just don't make the product.
Okay. Another question, because I missed part of the presentation. You can get the Indigo light with the regular white light LEDs, or is a combination when you?
Yeah, sorry if I wish I could get back on. Yeah, we could make it so it's mixed. So you have white and indigo chips inside together, and there's also where it's just indigo chips. So
it's a different strip inside the feature with the indigo. Or?
Yeah, it's all integral. So you have one fixture and it'll have 2 modes. So you have the full indigo, and then you'll have the mixed mode. So you have both in the same product. However, you can get one that doesn't have the dual mode. It's mixed all the time. So you can have it so it's like both. So you have full blue and everything's blue in the space. And then when someone walks into space, it goes into the mixed mode where you have white and blue mixed, or you can go with just the white and blue mixed all the time.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, I've got a question from Lourdes, which I think is actually a great question. Does Kenall have plans to develop fixtures that are more geared to workplace spaces or common areas, both from a cost standpoint and an aesthetic standpoint? We can talk about, maybe briefly just discuss the plans to expand Indigo Clean. I know that there are plans to do so.
Yes. Well, we have, I mean, we have a couple new fixtures right now. However, you want to talk about some different companies? Is that what you want to do?
We could, if you're okay with that.
Well, why don't you want to bring that up, or do you want me
Actually, I was gonna actually, that ties into my question. Excellent question, Lourdes. We've gotten some Pinnacle emails lately, and we've heard from Focal Point that the Indigo Clean technology is going to be offered in some of their fixtures. So is Kenall going to be, how's that just doing? You guys are just sharing the technology. When do you think that's going to be out there? Because obviously most of the products you've shown today show the products that are inside the OR and the products that are inside the clean room, but these guys are going to have the things that could go inside the patient room, which I know is going to interest some of the people here on the call, because we've got a lot of people want to be able to do this, not just in those ORs, but in other areas too, because MRSA can happen in any of those areas. Bacteria infections can happen in any of those areas.
Yep. That's great questions. Well, I'll tell you, Kenall has a couple fixtures like the MEIC. I don't know if I showed that enough. That is the patient product. And we have a couple different variations of patient products. However, yes, we are sharing that technology. So you might like the form or style a little differently of maybe the Pinnacle product. But Pinnacle, I believe, has 3 or 4 different light fixtures that I've seen that are using Indigo Clean technology inside it. The difference between what we're doing with Pinnacle, I think Pinnacle is going to be more, I don't say more decorative, but more in tune with that white mode, that white mix mode, where they'll have
different types of projects as well, not just.
Yeah. However, Indigo with the Kenall product is going to be specifically for, the dual mode to be specifically for operating rooms. We really play, and I don't know how deep we want to get into this, but, we have licensing with the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, Scotland, to have exclusive rights to sell this Indigo technology in North America to two markets, to healthcare and clean room, and so will Pinnacle. They'll have that as well.
It's interesting. Angela brought that up about the. I've had some tenant fit out architects reaching out to me about doing that technology in those other fixtures. So, do you see the benefits of this product for such an installation as a common office space, or just any place that they're going?
That's a good question. Right now, the best way for me to answer that, though, April, is we are licensed to sell into healthcare and clean room applications at this point.
Well, let's licensed to sell, licensed to advertise the benefits of the product. I mean, if you put this product in other locations, it doesn't mean it's going to do differently. It's not going to act differently just because it's not, quote, a hospital.
It'll still kill bacteria.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just talking about legality for my company.
Right. But from April and I can say, like if you're putting this in somewhere else, it's going to do the same thing. There's not some magic hospital button that you push,
I can only sell to you for those applications. However, I'm not going to go out and install your product. So I don't know where you're going to put it.
Okay. No, that still answers the question, that it helps all those locations out.
Oh yeah.
Is that true for Pinnacle as well?
I'm sorry?
That's true for Pinnacle, for what the Pinnacle products as well?
Yeah. I mean, Indigo Clean, it's not going to change the science to where you put it. It's still going to kill MRSA. And
no, sorry, I meant the legality aspect.
Yes, yeah. They're piggybacking off of our contract, of our.
So just briefly, what Tony's talking about is the actual scientist that discovered that this 405 nanometers does this magic thing to the bacteria, is a scientist out of Scotland, and a woman, I think, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And she discovered this and patented essentially, and has licensed this patent for use to Kenall. So if other manufacturers are making these claims, it's a little bit, just make sure that there's science to back it up.
Yeah. Right.
There are some others
Good
out
question.
there but make sure that there's science to back up what they're saying.
That's a good point. I mean, yeah, I asked the question, how many clinical studies do they have? Can they prove that that it kills bacteria? Can they do all those things? And I mean, no one's allowed to sell it except for Kenall. So, and other companies have, however, there's been litigation. I can't speak to those cases, but
We're not going to talk about that. But yeah, like there is a very
make sure you know it works, right?
Yeah.
I feel very Anderson Cooper here. Hey, Felix, I saw you were trying to say something. Did you have another?
Yes, actually, there is any regulation around enforcing this type of light?
Any regulations?
Yeah.
It's not ultraviolet, so there's no regulations. So yeah, if you were selling ultraviolet light, it's dictated. I just wrote it down because I know somebody was going to ask me that question. You did, Felix. I appreciate it. It was the IEC, which is the International Electrotechnical Commission, 62471 on photobiological safety. There are regulations, but that's for stuff that's UV. This is exempt because it's not UV. So there are none.
In the visible light spectrum, it's the same exact light that we put in all of, in every single project that gets built. It's just this particular one has this nanometer, the LED is emitting this nanometer at intensity strong enough to actually do what it needs to do.
Yeah, if you had something, it's called a spectroradiometer. I forgot what it's called, and it was. And I was at a couple sites actually in Florida. I was in Tampa at Bosch and Lomb, and they had some product installed there. They were testing it, and we went with the tester. We wanted to make sure we were right at 405 because that's where it spiked, and that's where you get that purple hue. And yeah, the intensity is a little higher, but it's still
still just visible light.
Visible light, so it's safe to be around. Yeah, it's amazing that it kills bacteria.
Yeah, I mean, we know the sun does that too. So
yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Anybody have any other questions? We've been on for over an hour. I hope everybody's had some alcohol. I know I've drank too much vodka tonight. And Herman, you're looking very good. Look at all that weight you've lost. Looking good.
What's outer space like?
Oh my gosh. It's
How did you do that, by the way?
There's a little thing that tucks down on the bottom left on my screen that says there's a little underneath the video, some options. You can choose your virtual background.
Yeah, I think for the moving ones, you have to be you have to have a Zoom account. But anybody can under stop video. There's a little up button there. You can change it.
So if anybody wants to do a quick cheers, I can't see any of your faces, but if you want to turn your cameras on, we can do a cheers to each other and good health. And thank you very much for spending the night with us. This means I have to drink more. Hold on a second. I had finished my last shot of vodka, but
tablecloth.
I can pour some more. All right, everybody. Bye. All right, Yi is sitting there in front of the San Francisco Bridge, and we got Ross's tablecloth again, Christian, and Kathy, that looks like the same glass. Have you been drinking nonstop since yesterday? Lourdes got a nice little Cabernet in there. Whoa! Ross has joined me in outer space. Edwin, were you asleep?
Thank you, guys, and thank you, April, for the invite.
Everybody, thank you very much. Gil, you look great. It's so awesome to see all you guys. I love you guys. Have a wonderful day, and hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Really.
Cheers.
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 Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, you look really good there in San Francisco. That's for sure.
Thanks, April.
I felt very unhappy that you and Barbara and gang didn't invite me to your little Zoom happy hour. So now you know I've got Zoom, so I'm ready to go.
All right, we owe you one.
Hey, Christian, you're getting hairy there. Almost as hairy as Ross.
Sorry, hold on. Can you repeat that again, April?
Christian, I said you're looking a little hairy there, almost as hairy as Ross.
A little bit.
Oh, the baby's here. Awesome.
I don't have to go see customers or anything, so or anyone in the office. Yeah, I gotta clean up a little bit.
Right, well, that's all right. We're used to it. All right, guys. Good to see you. Felix, thanks for joining. Ed, Lourdes, Herman, everybody, thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording now. Everybody have a good night.